When I was quite young, 9, 10 years old, I had constant dreams where I was flying over a landscape, looking down at it obliquely, and it was unfolding in front of me like a movie would. And it was just like a wonderful, wonderful feeling. So I spent the better part of my career trying to recreate that feeling in paintings. Well, I think maintaining curiosity is the key to being an artist. I think it's the key to being an interesting person, too. The moment you stop becoming curious, I think your life loses an awful lot of richness.
He's landing down on that point.
Having the opportunity to sit and observe something or to travel through it quietly, a landscape or place, and observe it is really important. If you're an artist, then you get to a point where there's enough accumulation of all of this that it's like it starts pushing the work. So rather than you trying to drag the direction of work with you to a certain point, it's being pushed by your own experiences, which I think always results in better painting. Well, I've always been interested in people that have lived in an area long enough that they move with real ease and grace through the landscape. They're just aware of everything that's going on, and they're also very aware of the movement of particular species, especially the ones they were trying to trap or hunt. And for me, they were a kind of role model, something to aspire to get to the point where you might know a particular area as well as they did. Well, we had a huge fire 2 years ago north of the Key River all the way up to the Pickerel River, so about 20 miles north of us, but it burnt a very, very large tract of the Canadian Shield. And I think that pushed a lot of animals, certainly at the time of the fire, pushed them out from the fire. But it's not an environment that's rich enough to sustain all of them any longer because it's so heavily burnt over. So I think there are lots of species that moved south, north, east, and west, but the ones that moved south a lot, I think, came down into our area. So we're seeing 2 sets of bald eagles rather than 1 set of bald eagles. So it sort of increased the population in our area to the extent that the area has enough food to sustain them. Well, I think the thing about knowing a place intimately or living in the same place for your entire life, sometimes you're not even aware that you do know it intimately. It just because you build this intimate knowledge slowly over time and it accumulates, so there's no one gigantic leap that you make. But when you get to my age, which is 70 years old, you feel like you and it are one, not you are separate from it. So I think maybe about 4,000 years ago, Western civilization stopped seeing itself as part of nature and started seeing itself as separate from nature, sort of with the beginning of agriculture. It's very difficult for us to see ourselves as part of it, but I think we have to. And the difficulty is that we as a Western culture really were so far removed in time from the time when we had cultural and social conventions that we could use that allowed us to live as if we saw ourselves as part of the world, that we don't really have something to go back to. It was clear to me when I lived in indigenous communities in the North that people had a very different way of understanding who they were in the world. And indigenous cultures very often have not lost that ability to see themselves as part of nature. And I think it's why in trying to find solutions about how we can reimagine our place in the world, we often look to what indigenous cultures are doing. But the truth is, we need to find our own way. We can learn lots from them, but we can't be them. And so we have to find within our Western roots the conventions that allow us to start understanding our place in the world differently. A start for that would just be spending more time watching what's happening.